Welcome to a brief video instruction guide on installation and adjusting the cutting blades on a VPD5 series sold and serviced by Fancord Industries. As you're looking at the machine, the first thing we would want to do if we were to change out a set of blades would be make note of the direction of the blades, that the straight edge is on the left side and the beveled edge is on the right side, looking from the front of the machine. I recommend changing the blades one at a time, just in order to ensure the correct orientation. Blade removal and installation is very simple. We first would remove the 5 cap screws that hold the upper blade in place, remove the cap screws, and carefully remove the blade and reinstall the upper blade, new upper blade, in the same order. Tighten all the upper screws completely. The next step would be to then change the lower blade. It's done almost the same as the upper blade by removing the 5 horizontal cap screws on the left side, sliding the blade out of the holder, and reinstalling the new blade and tightening all the screws. Once both blades have been installed and are tight, do not yet turn on the machine because we have to set something up before we operate it, because we could damage the blades. So once your blades are installed, then we would go, and I'm going to cross over the camera, so excuse me for a moment. Once our blades are installed, just like you see on the machine, then we're going to take a 8mm metric hex wrench, and we are going to loosen all of the horizontal, or vertical screws rather, in locking down the lower blade. These screws retain the side-to-side position of the lower blade and must be loosened prior to operating the machine for the first time with new blades on it. So bear with me, our cameraman and our audience, while we loosen the rest of these. We get these all loose. They don't have to be terribly loose, just half a turn. Okay, now all of our vertical mounting screws are held in place. Now what we want to do is push the blade to the far left of the machine, like that, as far as it can go. This way, when we operate the lower blade and bring it down, it will not cross over the lower blade and cause damage. Now what we're going to do, now that we have the lower blade loose and pushed over to the left as far as possible, we will turn on the air supply, which I'm going to have to walk behind the cameraman. We will turn on the air supply, the valve that's located right next to the regulator. Ensure on the gauge that we have the correct pressure. Should be about 5 bar. Then what we're going to do is actually step on the foot pedal, and our cameraman could just pan down to our pedal on the floor right here. This would be set up anywhere depending on the operator. We will step on the pedal and bring the blade down. Now that we have the blade down, we are going to shut off the air supply, thus leaving the blade in the lowered position. Once the blade is down and the air is off, then we will push the lower blade back over till it contacts the upper blade. Once we have established uniform contact across the length of the lower blade, that it's making contact with the upper, then we will come back over here to our right side and we will tighten all of the horizontal cap screws on the right side lower blade. We will go back and tighten. Okay, now that we have established our offset by pushing the lower blade over to the upper blade, we have tightened all the screws on the right side of the lower blade. Now we are ready to set the actual height of the blade, or adjust the height of the blade if needed. The first thing we do when we adjust the blade, the height of the blade, again leaving the upper blade down, we are going to, you will see, very hard to see, but on your machine you will see at least 4 vertical adjusting screws going through the block. Longer blade will have more adjusters. The first thing we want to do is raise all the center adjusters up so they are not contacting, at least a couple of turns. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm raising these center adjusters. If you don't do this, it'll cause a rocking motion when you try to adjust the blade, and it'll drive you crazy. So we ensure that the center adjusters are out of the way. Then we will adjust the height with the very front and the very rear adjuster. But before we can adjust the height, we need to loosen all the locking screws that are running horizontally through the lower blade. So we will take our wrench, again metric. We will loosen all 5 bolts in the bottom blade. They don't have to be very loose, just no tension on the lock washer. So we want to back them off just a little, but not a lot. Once the lower blade screws are loose, then we will adjust the front and the rear vertical adjusting screws to maintain parallelism between the blades and to meet the desired overlap. Generally, FR4 material, you'd want a 3/1000 overlap. Cutting aluminum, you may want to go more 7 to 9/1000, possibly even 10/1000 overlap. So we adjust the height of the blade, keeping it parallel by adjusting the rear and the front adjusters only. Once we have established the proper uniform overlap of the 2 blades, then we will come back and tighten all the side locking screws firmly. Okay, so now that we have leveled our blade off and got the correct overlap by just the front and rear adjusters only, we tightened all the side screws down. Now we're going to go back and run down the center adjusters until they touch. Ensure the blade is tight before you run these center ones down. Just a gentle few turns until it actually makes contact. You'll feel resistance, just snug them. There's no need to over tighten these. We'll do the same on the other one. Turning it down clockwise until it touches. You will feel resistance once it meets the bottom. That's it. It's both snug. That completes the adjustment. Now to just briefly check the machine, we will turn on the air supply. You will see the blade went up. We will step on the pedal cycle to ensure that we still have parallelism. If not, you have to repeat the adjustment procedure. And then we can even test it with a PCB, which I happen to have one right here. We will slide a PCB in on the score line. We will step on the pedal, ensure that it separates, which it does. And that concludes the video for instructions on adjusting the blades on our VPD5. And thank you very much.